How we doing, guys? Firstly, apologies for looking like a call centre twat, but this is sometimes the quickest way to actually make one of these things. This is, what is this? This is a VR to PC Baker. Now he is asking the question: is there any shame in being an older gamer? This is a thing I've spoke about a few times in the past. Now, I'm not ashamed of my age at all. I am, what age am I? I'm 47, I'll be 48 in about a month's time, which is quite bloody scary. You know, when you were 16, 17 years old, you could never see yourself getting to, 2 years shy of 50. 50 years old is an old bloke. It really is, but I certainly don't feel it. I probably do start to look it now. I think I used to look a bit younger when I was younger, which is a bit of a silly statement, but I certainly think I do look my age a bit more now. But yeah, video games then. I mean, I've been playing video games since when? Since 1979, when I got my first Pong machine. That was I kind of lost interest in the Pong machine. It was a Binatone machine, one of these luminous sort of pink, or not pink, burnt orange Pong machines. It had, what did it have? It had tennis, it had squash, it had football, which is taking the piss when you think about it. It was four walls with little bats and that was it. But anyway, yeah, I got that from my granny. And I got bored with it pretty damn quick. The game that really got me was probably the start of my hook into video games was when my mate Nick came round with his Atari 2600. Now, I never had an Atari 2600. I do now, but I always wanted one, and because of the price, I mean, my mum and dad both worked hard, but they didn't have a lot of money. They had me and my two sisters to bring up. There was no such thing as credit, really, apart from the mortgage, and that was about it. So yeah, they didn't have too much kind of spare cash, so when I wanted an Atari 2600, it was never ever going to happen. But one day my mate Nick came to the house during the summer, and he had been given this Atari 2600, or Atari VCS as we called it back in Britain in the 70s. And with it was two games. You had Combat and Pac-Man, and I just thought this was the most incredible thing ever. It really was. Here was me interacting with the TV. Before that, it was just, like you were just watching the TV, but here was something you could actually interact, and you could actually make things on the TV move. So yeah, Pac-Man. That was the game that really got me into video games. I managed to make my mate was going to come across the next day, and I persuaded him it would be easier if he just left the Atari 2600 in my house to save taking it home and then bringing it back the following day. So that's exactly what he did, and I then played it for all night, basically. Well, maybe not all night. I probably was sent to my bed at some point, but I played it for hours and hours and hours and hours. So anyway, that was the game that really got me into video games. So anyway, I'm completely going off topic. Is there any shame in being an older gamer? So here I am. That would be, what would that have been? 1979. I would be 12. Yeah, 12 years old. Is that right? Wait a minute, yeah, 67, 79, so 13, I was 13 years old. Just had a blonde moment there for a second. So yeah, that was it. I was 13 when I first got the bug, and here I am, 47, which is some 34 years later, and I'm still playing video games. I honestly don't think that is ever going to change. I mean, possibly when I was... when I'd be, I don't know, 20 years ago, I used to think to myself, there may come a day where I'm no longer wanting to play video games, but I can't honestly see that happening. I mean, right now, I do certainly play less games than I did, but my actual hobby and interest in this has never waned. If anything, it's got probably even worse as I've kind of gotten older. But yeah, have I ever been, is there any shame? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm saying there's no shame in it at all. I mean, I'll talk to people and I'll quite openly, if somebody says to me, what are your hobbies, I would say to them, video games and running. These are my two hobbies. And you know, I think now it's getting easier, because 20 years ago, if there was somebody who was into video games were like in their 50s, then it would probably be kind of quite embarrassing. But I think because, I mean, my generation, i.e. people who are in their sort of late 40s like myself, and even a wee bit older, we were the first kind of generation to enjoy video games, computers. You know, computers, we were the very first generation to kind of get the access to them. You know, prior to my generation, there was no such thing as computers, so that's why these guys never had any influence, or they didn't have any. I'm making a complete arse of what I'm talking about here. People before my generation, they didn't. Computers weren't around, so if somebody who was 50 back 20 years ago told somebody else that they're into video games, they'd probably be kind of dismissed as being childish. But the point I'm trying to make is, guys my age, we've always known about video games. We've grown up with video games, and every generation that's followed us has grown up with video games. Video games is part of culture now. It's part of our life. They're as common as watching films, as watching TV, as driving a car. People don't say, are you embarrassed that you watch TV? And I think that's the same video games. Don't get me wrong, there are still people out there who probably, I mean, one of my mates, my good running training mate, he thinks, he just doesn't get it at all. He doesn't understand what it is. He doesn't slag me at all, but he doesn't really get it. He kind of thinks, you know, that's something for kids. But said all that, I've got a Facebook page like most people, and I don't ever. I tend to kind of keep my my gaming side of my life away from Facebook, because the honest answer is there's too many people that I know on Facebook, you know, that would probably just kind of slag me off if I was posting a picture of Mamemeister or something. They would just think I was off my head. And you know what? I know what Facebook's like. It's one of these things where it can just degenerate into some kind of slagging match, and I really can't be arsed with that. I don't have to justify myself to anybody about what I do. So what I have got is I've got a Mamemeister Facebook page, which I kind of post all my sort of video game related shenanigans on it. Yeah, so I do tend to keep my kind of gaming side of things private, and it's not because I'm embarrassed. It's just because I can't be arsed with the hassle, which kind of sometimes goes along with being a video gamer as an old person. I mean, I remember a story which I've mentioned before. Back in the 90s, when I went to buy a SNES, and I was embarrassed about it, and I went up to, what was the name of the shop? It wasn't, what the hell was it? Was it not Halfords? What's the name of that? Maplin's. Yeah, I think it was called Maplin's, which obviously still exists. I went into Maplin's to buy this SNES, and the guy asked, you know, he says, "Can I help you, sir?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a Super Nintendo for my nephew." And I actually pretended it was for a nephew, because, you know, I would have been, mid-30s, maybe late 20s, and I was kind of embarrassed. You know, before the PlayStation came along, video games were very much for kids. That was the sort of general consensus. But when Sony brought out the PlayStation, that seemed to make games acceptable. It made them cool. People who went to clubs played video games, and now, you know, if you post, I mean, it's now people will say, what were you doing last night? Oh, I was playing FIFA, and people instantly know that you're talking about a video game. So video games are very much accepted nowadays, which is great, because, you know, it's a totally natural hobby. But yeah, I was embarrassed back in the 90s to see that I was buying a SNES for myself, so I made up this little white lie until, oops, my computer's just going into screen mode thing. Out you come. So yeah, that was it. But is there any shame in being an older gamer? Absolutely not. You know, at the end of the day, people are into all different types of hobbies. You know, if somebody thinks that I'm an arsehole because I'm into video games, then as far as I'm concerned, they can piss off out my life. I'm not interested. There is absolutely no shame at all. So anyway, listen, that is it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this VR, and please check out PC Gamer's channel below. As usual, guys, thanks very much for watching.
Thanks for watching my Mamemeister channel. Please feel free to like, comment or subscribe. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter.